And we're back with our next lesson. We're going to be doing lesson number 6 for the Boxcar children. I've been loving this. This has been so fun. But before I show you your questions and our discussion board, I'm going to just make sure we go through our goal here. So let's read it together at I can use. Ready? I can use key events, which means the most important parts from the story to explain my thinking and opinions. So we'll be taking those really, really important parts of the book basically to explain kind of our reasons and thinkings. Now, most of the questions, again, are going to be opinion-based. So things that we are thinking about, things that we, basically just really, really just our opinions and thinking about the book. So, just as we are going to be reading, I want you just to be always kind of thinking and remembering all those important parts of the story. So here's our lesson though today, lesson 6. I'm going to go through our questions here to start. If you could cut something in your pet's hair or your own hair, what would you cut and why? So and this can be like if you would want to style it in a different way, if you would want to do something, just think about that. If you could do something unique or different or original in your hair, would you? Or what would you do and why? And maybe you wouldn't even want to. Maybe like, you know what, I don't want to do anything. And that's what you could even say too. The next question is, if you were one of the Boxcar children and you got sick or someone else got sick, would you have gotten Dr. Moore? So I want you to think about that. If you live in the Boxcar, would you have gotten Dr. Moore for help? Or would you try to take care of yourself? Would you have been mad at Dr. Moore for telling Mr. Alden, and why? So just knowing that Dr. Moore might be telling Mr. Alden something. And do you think the children will get to keep living in the Boxcar, and why? So just things to think about as we're going. Then we've also, I'm not going to show you the discussion board quite yet, but it's something I will be showing you the Boxcar. I will show you the discussion board after we're all done. But I'm going to leave it on the questions here as I read. So you just think about these questions as I begin today. So chapter 11, the doctor takes a hand. The days went by happily for the Boxcar children. They found more treasures in the dump, and Henry worked every day for Dr. Moore. One noon, Henry came home with some new stockings for Benny. Benny was very happy about them and made everyone admire them. But when Jessie looked at the new stockings, she had a happy thought. She carefully washed Benny's old stockings and hung them up to dry. That afternoon, she and Violet sat down with the workbag between them to make a bear for Benny. You must make a tail too, Jessie, begged Benny, watching her put the arms and legs and head. Bears don't have tails, said Jessie. Your old bear didn't have a tail, but this bear must have a tail, replied Benny, knowing that Jessie would put on 2 tails if he asked her to. What kind of tail? Asked Jessie at last. Long and thin, said Benny happily, so I can pull it. Benny, cried Jessie, laughing. But she made a tail, long and thin, just as Benny had requested. What's his name, Jessie? Asked Benny, when at last the bear was handed over to him. I haven't thought about a name, replied Jessie. Why don't you think of a nice name for him? Well, you made him on my old stockings. Let's name him Stockings. All right, Stockings it is, agreed Jessie, trying not to laugh. And from that day on, the bear's name was Stockings as long as he lived, and he lived to be a very old bear indeed. One afternoon, Jessie saw how long Benny's hair was getting, and she cut it with Violet's scissors. Benny stood quietly while she did it, but while his sisters were getting supper, he said to himself, Jessie cut my hair. I'll get Violet's scissors, and I'll cut Watch's hair. Our dog will look so good with a new haircut. He found Violet's scissors and made Watch lie down on his side. Then he began to cut the hair off. Benny said, Good dog, Watch. You are Jessie's dog, so I will cut a J in your hair. Hold still now. Watch lay still, and Benny began to cut a J in it. It was not very good, but it still did look like a J. Soon Benny had cut off all the hair on one side with a J in the middle. He stood admiring his work, and just then Jessie came to see what he was doing. Benny, she cried, what are you doing? Then she began to laugh. Oh, Violet, come and see, she called. Watch looks so funny. Jessie laughed and laughed until she almost cried. Violet laughed until she did cry. Then they could not stop crying. She cried and cried. At last Jessie made up her mind that Violet really was sick. Oh no, Violet, you don't look well. You must go to bed. She helped her carefully into the boxcar and put pine needles all around her and under her. Then she wet a handkerchief in the cold water in the brook and laid it on her little sister's hot head. I wish Henry would come home, said Jessie. What shall we do? When Henry came home at last, he looked at Violet and said that maybe she had a cold. Maybe she sat too long by the brook, he said. If Violet is very sick, she ought to go to the hospital, said Jessie. Yes, I know that, said Henry, and we don't want to go to a hospital if we can help it. We should get her to. She will have to tell her name. Yes, said Jessie. Then grandfather could find us. The 2 older children sat up with Violet. They put cold water on her head. But after dark, Violet shook all over, and Jessie was frightened. She covered Violet all over with pine needles, but still she shook. They could not get her warm. I'm going to have to go get Dr. Moore, said Henry. I'm afraid Violet is just too sick. Then Henry started to run. He ran even faster than he had run in the race. Down the hill into town he ran until he came to Dr. Moore's house. Please come, he said. Violet is very, very sick. The doctor said, Come and get my car. He did not ask Henry which way to go, but the car went up into the road. When they came to the woods, he said to Henry, Stay here in the car. He ran alone up the hill to the boxcar. It seemed like magic that he knew where to go. When Dr. Moore came back, he was carrying Violet in his arms. Jessie and Benny and Watch came too. They all got in the car. Are you going to take her to a hospital? No, said Dr. Moore. I'm just taking her to my house. When they stopped at last, Dr. Moore carried Violet into the house and said to his mother, Violet was very sick. We must put her to bed. Mrs. Moore hurried around, opening beds and bringing pillows. And Mary came with the kitchen with hot water bottles. After a while, Violet began to get warm. Then Mrs. Moore came to get the other children. You must stay here all night, she said. She gave Henry and Benny a big bed, and Jessie slept in a little one. But Violet was so sick the doctor did not go to bed all night. He would not leave her. He sat by her side until 10 o'clock in the morning. Before 10 o'clock, a man came to see the doctor. Mary told him he could wait, so he sat down in the living room. Soon Benny came in. Where's the doctor? Asked the man crossly. Well, he's up in Violet's room, answered Benny. This means $5,000 to him if he will not come down, said the man. Oh, well, he can't come now. What do you mean, boy? What's he doing? Well, he's taking care of my sister Violet. She's really sick. And you mean he wouldn't leave her even if I gave him $5,000? Yes, answered Benny. That's what I mean. Then the man said, You see, I've lost a little boy, and I think the doctor knows where he is. My little boy is just about as old as you are. Well, if you don't find him, maybe you can have me, remarked Benny. I like you. You seem nice. And we're going to stop right there. Come back for the next video.